Hi everyone! Welcome. It's like 6 o'clock at night, but I just finished a few hours ago, not really just, but a few hours ago I finally finished the book that I was reading for Women's Prize shortlist. I'm very behind on the Women's Prize reading because it's so difficult to source these books at my library. I don't know what I'm going to read next. I have a few options. I have a few things that I want to read for a vlog, as another one for a reading challenge, but I don't know if I'm currently in the mood for that. I don't know if I'm currently in the mood for those two books that are on those TBRs. So I thought we're just gonna do an oldie but a goodie. I missed the TBR jar video for April because I've been so busy. So I thought, let's just do it now. Okay, the rules. If I pick out a book that is like the third book in a series but I haven't yet read the second, or if like I pick out the fourth book in a series but I haven't yet read the third, I read the one that I haven't read. Makes more sense. I get at least one veto because I don't want to read A Little Life. Okay? I'm not in the mental like state to be able to read that book. So let's just do it. I don't know if I should go from the top, from the bottom. Let's just like dig around a little. Okay, I've got like 3, so we're just gonna do, okay, this one. We'll do this one. I will say, if it's I'm pretty sure I have put in the TBR jar like just Wheel of Time, so I can continue reading Wheel of Time, but I don't have any Wheel of Time books. I haven't yet purchased like the next Wheel of Time book, so that'll just go straight back in. But let's see what this one is. Is that upside down? I literally have no idea what that says. Bring out the bodies. I've already read that. Okay, taking that out of the jar. Okay, next one. Okay. Is this 1 or 2? What the fuck? Why is it such a, I can't even see. Is it? The Shadow of What Was Lost. Are you fucking shitting me? This is the first book in a trilogy? I'm in the middle of too many series. Do I veto this? But then what happens if I pick up a book? Oh, shit. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Why? Because I don't know what I feel like. So I feel like this might be a good book just to like sink my teeth into. All I know why this is on my shelf. I got this secondhand. I found it at an op shop for $2 freaking. It's part of a trilogy, I'm pretty sure, by James Islington. This is The Shadow of What Was Lost. Why I put this on my bookshelf, why when I saw it at the op shop I was like, oh my god, yes, you're coming home with me. It's because I saw, I think it was on TikTok or on Instagram, there's two people that were like, I want to, like, let's talk about why this series, like this trilogy, is incredible. And they were talking about how this is about like psychic powers or something, like you can predict the future, but then it is quite philosophical and maybe theological, not too sure, because it kind of debates this idea of like freedom and human like will, like what do you actually have freedom if everything is already predestined? So that's kind of why I was like, yes, you're coming home with me. Should I read the first sentence out? Okay, we have prologue. Lightning. That's the first sentence. No, I'm just joking. We'll read the other first sentence. Lightning. For a moment the waters of Erith Morg were lit, whirling and churning as though a great knife had plunged deep into the pool's murky heart. Okay, descriptive writing. A dark wave shattered against a barely discernible outcrop of black rocks, hissing, spitting spray 100 feet into the air before subsiding. The world flickered back into darkness, but the waves, if anything, increased their intensity. Another roared, hissed, sighed, even louder than the peals of thunder that followed. Another. Tal watched impassively from his rocky perch, high above even the spray. Okay. I wonder if Tal is going to be our main character. This is what I'm reading. TBR jar. Okay, let's see what happens. Hey everyone, I'm back. It's been like a week and a half, possibly. I wanted to just do like a review of this book that I got out of my TBR jar for this month's installment of TBR Takedown. The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. How do I even speak about this book? First of all, incredible. 5 stars. 5 stars. Let's talk about what this book is about very briefly, because I don't want to go into spoilers. And then I want to talk about my feelings, thoughts, and opinions. So, this is a multi-perspective, epic fantasy. Think of Robert Jordan, of Brandon Sanderson. Like, that is literally, they have it on the back. That is literally the perfect comparison. It is a combination of both. Incredible writing, incredible world building. But that's beside the point. It's not what I'm talking about right now. So we have multiple characters with their own storylines that are all incredibly significant to the plot of the story. So we have Davian, we have Caden, we have Wur, and we have Aisha. And they're all amazing in their own ways. And they're all very unique. Their voices are very unique. Their storylines are very unique. Everything that James Islington does in this book is magnificent. More people need to read it. More people need to read this. Anyway. So this world, I need to put the book down, but I kind of want you to stare at it. Please read this. We have this world. And in this world, we have humans, just normal humans. We have gifted, who are humans with psychic powers. They are able to wield this thing called essence, which I'm guessing is related to energy and like life force was what I'm kind of interpreting it to be. And then you have augurs who are kind of like gifted, but they can also wield this thing called Khan. And Khan is different from essence, because essence for the gifted comes from within, but augurs, they can't wield essence from within. I think they can only wield essence if they take it from outside sources, or that could just be Davian, because he has special being. I'm not an expert in Khan, but Khan is like the world, the energy of the world. You can manipulate it. It's kind of like, think of it like the force of the world. I don't know, but augurs can manipulate that. And Khan is, if you're talking like a hierarchy of power, you have essence and you have Khan. So Khan is like top tier. That's why there's only a few augurs. And back in the day, augurs were the people who were actually governing this country, this empire. But things happened, and we'll talk about that later. But augurs can also see, capital S, and read, capital R, and control, capital C, and shapeshift, capital S. So when I say read, it's basically like they can tell if you're lying. And they can also just like read you. They can go into your mind and they can know everything about you. They can predict the future and they can control people because they're able to get into their minds and they're able to do that. But also it is entirely dependent on the augur's ability, because a lot of these abilities for augurs require like intense study. And I believe that most augurs, they're like schooling, so to speak, back in the day. Like each ability was given 1 day, 1 year and a day to become an expert in, because that's how much care and study they needed to do in order to be an augur who can read, because there's so much like risks involved, because if you read a person's mind and their memory's wrong, you kill them. So like the stakes are pretty high. So you have augurs, but augurs back in the day were really important. They were the governing bodies of this empire, but there was basically like a revolution, I guess, kind of that came about because the augurs started being kind of despotic tyrants. Their predictions started to go wrong, and no one has any idea why at the time. And as a result of just increasing control and coercion of the general populace, they were killed off. And there was like a huge rebellion. And then you have the present day where this book takes place, like 15 or 20 years after, 10 to 20 years after, I think it's around 10, 15 years after, the augurs have been decimated, supposedly. And now, as a result of what happened with the augurs and the gifted, who were also kind of like up in society as a result of the fact that they can wield essence at the time, then the gifted are now basically like corralled and controlled. They are all branded with a mark because of the tenets. Now, the tenets are basically just really strict rules, but they are rules that are magically binding and are created from the North Warden. Now, the North Warden, from how I understand it, is like the general, so to speak, of this entire sect of the government, because his brother, the North Warden's brother, is the king of King Andres. So the North Warden is in charge of the administration. Now, the administration is not like Parliament. Administration is basically like the secret police. They control and patrol and ensure that all gifted are abiding by the tenets. They are the ones who are basically like the principals of the schools where the gifted are board, like they live there and they're educated as children until they go through a trial, and this trial is where they showcase their ability to utilize essence, and then they become like kind of part of these I don't want to call them cities, but they're kind of like these estates called tolls, like Tol Shen or Tol Athean, where that's where they live. And they're basically like segregated into these specific areas in the empire where they like study and do all that sort of stuff. They're kind of left alone, but they are also completely under the control of the administration. They can't do anything without being questioned and or have to justify their actions to the administration, but also to their own council of elders, because the elders are also, you know, like it's this huge system of control. And they're all just trying, but they're also really not treated very well. And the council have their own voice. They do have some power because the tenants allow them to have some power, but they are, you know, at the whims of the administration and therefore the North Warden and therefore the king. So you have that. So we meet Aisha, Wur and Davian at one of the schools. Caladal? I forgot the name. The names can be a bit tricky to remember. And I'm not going to talk about their personal stories. Let's just say that there's a boundary that the empire kind of like is up against. And this boundary was magically constructed by augurs back in the day, after this huge war that took place against, I'm pretty sure, against a man called David, Archene David, I can't pronounce his name, I apologize. But I'm pretty sure there was this huge war, and it was kind of like a prison. So the boundary was created so that this person and his kind of army of like these supernatural creatures that wreak havoc can never come past and come back into the empire and wreak havoc again. But the boundary is weakening. The boundary is weakening. Why is it weakening? Because the administration keeps on killing off augurs. Like, duh. Anyway, so that's the context of this world. And then we meet Davian, Aisha, and and eventually Caden. And oh my fucking God, okay? You kind of assume when we start the book that Davian is going to be our main character. But like, they're all main characters in their own right, and they're all incredibly important to the overarching plot line and what's going to happen. This is a book that is so big brain energy. Like, I kind of think it was published at the wrong time. Bear with me. This book was published in 2016. If it was published like this year, last year, the year before, I feel like any time during the 2020s, oh my God. You know why? Because I don't think back in 2016 enough people were capable of like realizing how fucking insane this book is. Okay? You know why? Because it plays with the time. This is such a philosophical and theological exploration of the human experience. It is so masterfully written. Okay? Marvel could never. It's so good. It is so good. The main driving force of this book, of this particular book, of The Shadow of What Was Lost, is this idea of like free will. Like, do we have free will if everything has been predicted and is supposedly predestined? Do we have free will if all of our decisions are not technically our own decisions because they're decisions that we were always going to inevitably make as a result of the path that has already been forged for us? So fucking fascinating. And it goes into like, well, it's like this because of, you know, the one religion that back in the day everyone believed in, because the one creator, Al, it is believed that this one creator created the reality that we live in, and as a result every person has a path that has already been created for them, and that is why the augurs can predict the future, because it is all one reality and we're all on the paths that have already been forged. And then there's like another camp who is like, no, we are just one reality. There are multiple realities. So if we are able to go back in time and change some of the decisions that we make, because we already know that if we make the decision, this decision, it's going to result in this. If we go back and do the other decision, like we make another decision, we approach it in a different way, then we'll go into an alternate reality, and then that reality is the reality for that alternate universe. And so there's these two camps. So then you have the people in the middle who are just like, this is what? I just want to make enough money to feed my family. And also we're getting invaded. Can we just run now? Like, it's just so cool. It's so cool that you have this. And then you have one of the characters. Oh my God. What you find out at the end, you kind of are like, is it? Are they the same person? And then you find out. I was so shocked. I should have filmed my reaction to the last few pages. It was so incredible. But when you realize who this person is and who he's been, and how he can so easily play with time in an attempt to try and obviously forge a different path, it hurts your brain. And you know as the reader, but the other characters don't. So you're just sitting there like, oh my God, incredible writing, absolutely incredible. Let's talk about that. The world building, fantastic. You are dropped straight into this, and it can take you a bit to just situate yourself and understand what's happening because of the politics. It's so political. And just the societal construction, just like how society is constructed and the different attitudes and like prejudices they have and all that sort of stuff. But it is done so seamlessly, right? There is no info dumping. Everything that you find out about the world is done so perfectly. And I don't say that lightly. I do not say that lightly. It is done so perfectly. And within conversation, within, characters finding things out, and then those things being elaborated upon through memories or through another conversation. It's just so wonderful in the way that it's done. And this was a fucking debut. How was it a debut? How? Oh, so good. And then, so the world building, 10 out of 10 would recommend. 10 out of 10 would recommend. The characters. Oh my God. I just know that this is going to go into like the deepest, darkest depths of exploring the morals and ethics of these characters, because you already see it. You already see it with some of these characters who like have to decide to do things that they previously it would have been a hard no, but because of the situation that they're in, they have to, and how that changes them. So fucking good. I'm terrified to see how this ends. This is a trilogy, the Lycanius trilogy. I'm terrified because how and what is going to happen. It felt like the first book. Like, I know it's the first book, but it didn't feel like a first book. Does that make sense? You know when a lot of first books in series are just building up to something? Yeah. There is building up to something happening, but that something happens. And then we have at the end like oh shit, this was only like the first stage. And it's just, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Can you see how excited I am? Can you see how excited I am? Because this is exciting, okay? It's exciting. Characters are incredible. I loved every single one of them for a variety of different reasons. There's also such an interesting tension because you have characters who can literally tell when someone is lying, but they're still being played. And they're still in the dark about certain things. And it's just like these augurs, so to speak, were supposed to be infallible, but they're not. It's just amazing. So good. So fucking good. The politics handled really well. There's the twists and turns that you have. Oh my God. You find out something about the North Warden towards the end. Changes everything in my perspective, and only a few characters find out, and they're like, we can't tell this to certain characters because that would just decimate them. Oh my God, the ending, like the last 100 pages of this, amazing. James Islington. If you are watching this, I highly doubt you are. This was incredible, and I cannot wait to read everything that you've ever written. I'm going to read the last 2 books of this series, and I think he's come out with a new book last year. He's got a fan for life. I cannot tell you how incredible this book was. If you are a fan of Robert Jordan, you will love this book. And I don't say that lightly. You might find that there's quite a lot of similarities. But read it regardless, because it's so different. At the same time, I just fans of Robert Jordan, fans of Brandon Sanderson. Honestly, I feel like if you enjoyed, this comes to me because I read it like this year, but his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, I feel like it's kind of a mishmash of those three, the big three, right? But especially Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. If you take Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, like the Cosmere, the Wheel of Time, you mash it together, you get this. Legitimately, you get this. Oh, absolutely incredible. Please read it if you haven't. If you have, tell me what you thought about it in the comments, but don't spoil the last 2 books for me, please. Because I'm going to be reading this year. I had to stop myself from binge reading the entire series because I don't have the other 2 books. I have to go buy them. A master storyteller. And this was his debut. Oh, the layers to this. Because of the playing with time, because of these people behind the scenes like pulling the threads, the strings, like little puppets. It's like, are we puppets to this entity that is just like saying, haha, you thought, but that's where you're going to inevitably end up? Or is something more sinister happening? Like, who is affecting this reality? I don't know. It's just so fascinating. So many questions and not enough answers. But everyone, The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington is absolutely fantastic, and you need to read it if you haven't yet already. And when you do fall in love with it, you are welcome. It's just absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend. I cannot believe it took me this long to read. But honestly, I feel like books come into your life at a certain point, at a certain time, and that is because I don't think I would have loved this book as much if I read it in 2016. I don't think I had the capacity to really appreciate this type of book until now. So I'm really, really happy. Oh my God. Fantastic. That's why I love doing these TBR videos, these TBR takedowns, because I read some incredible pieces of work. I really do. I really, really do. Anyway, that's it. That's my review. 5 stars. Absolutely gorgeous, stunning, iconic, amazing. I can't believe this was a debut. I don't think I've ever read a debut like this, to be perfectly honest. Except maybe for Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World. And that same feeling reading The Eye of the World for the first time I had with this. And that, my friends, is a really big compliment because I search for that feeling when I read my books. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any recommendations for epic fantasy, please let me know, because I am an epic fantasy girly, but I don't read enough epic fantasy. So let me know, and I will see you next week. As always, take care, stay safe, subscribe if you enjoyed, and happy reading. Bye, friends.